All right. So this is a question everyone gets often, which is, and I'm going to go to you, Tati, first. What are the top, I don't know, two, three, barriers to AI adoption? And let's be as specific as we can be and as realistic as we can be, right? On the one hand, you might have, somebody that really understands the technology and somebody else might not necessarily. And how do you cross, that chasm and close that gap? And there's other folks have a certain mindset, that's a little bit more like, hey, I don't need complete information. Other people are like, hey, I need like more than complete information. So Tati, first question to you. Barriers to AI adoption, kind of what are they and how do they tend to surface and what can be done?
So my experience across whether it's retail or hospitality type organizations, experiential organization, is rarely one barrier. So it's a combination of, I would say, the three top things: fear, knowledge, and organizational constraints. Right? You have these knowledge gaps that will show up first, whether it's the executives that are having a hard time distinguishing the hype from reality of what really is happening out there. IT teams that are uncertain about what the integration requirements are and how it work with their systems. And then you have frontline workers that are unsure how AI would change their work, whether they're going to keep their job, which is one of the primal fears around all of this technology. So the knowledge gaps then feeds the fear, which is, primarily this fear, and we talked about this prior about CEOs and executives making expensive mistakes, very expensive mistakes, or the fear of disrupting operations that currently work. And whatever I'm doing right now, this is one of the number one questions that I get is, well, this is working. Why would I mess with it? There's so many things that we've messed with before, and there's a bit of PTSD there from everyone that like so many things we messed with before stop working. So that Harvard Business School study that we talked about women using AI 25% less, it shows a bit of how those fears also can show up and unevenly, right, across organizations in various ways. So then you have the third one, which is the organizational constraints. So how do they amplify this? You have very difficult approval processes. You have the siloed data, which is one of our favorite topics. You have unclear governance or what I call the head in the sand model of governance, that we're just going to tell everyone they cannot use AI. And then you have the famous competing priorities, which is one of my least favorite expressions, which all it means is that we're going to not move ahead on things that really need to happen. So this all like it slows momentum. So the most specific one that I found to be prevalent is the silver bullet syndrome, like that you're looking for AI that will magically solve all your problems.
Yeah, just AI it. You know what I mean? All I gotta do is AI it.
So
Just
it's
AI
not
it.
going to
It's
address
fine.
any underlying operational issues. But AI, as we talked about so many times, it's smarter than your current, it's potentially smarter, and it will create new interactions, but it will amplify your current processes, good or bad. So if you haven't defined current state, AI implementation is just going to be bad things faster, right? So I think that the psychological safety, which is another overused term, but I'm going to use it here, around experimentation is really, really big. And I'd love to hear you both your thoughts around this as well, because what are the things that could be done in order to create that, in order to establish the right guardrails for the right use, for the responsible use of this?
I have just a couple of general thoughts. I think and sort of looking at the question from a different lens, I think there's a lot of complexity still out there around AI and the way that businesses, executives, business leaders can use AI. I think, we're in an interesting time in the kind of the growth of the market where there's a lot of tech stuff out there, right? And it's just like new tech stuff coming out every day. And we haven't reached the point where it's become simplified for a business leader. We're going to get there for sure. And the companies that continue to build products that make the user experience, the consumer experience, or the business leader experience easy and simplify the use of AI technology, those are going to be market leaders for sure. But I think we're still in the state where, there's a lot of tech nerdy stuff that's coming out, and it's hard to really understand various different aspects of the AI space. We're trying to stay up, we're staying up on it. Everything, stuff comes out every day, and it's hard for everybody to keep up. And that's why you kind of need, a domain expert and an AI expert to help you get that last mile, to understand the technology and take you the last mile. But I do think that part of the barrier of adoption is, the tools are not great. They don't have great user experiences yet. And the more that they get better user experiences, then the more it'll be adopted for sure. And I think there's also kind of like the psychological piece of the conversation, which is like, is AI going to take jobs away, or is AI going to, is there fear in hallucinations within AI systems, right? Is that going to taint the brand? If you're using an AI tool for a consumer experience, is it, is it going to go off the guardrails a little bit? So, there's aspects of that around adoption, for general tool sets within the AI industry as well.
Yeah. I think both of you have shared stuff I would 100% pound the table on and agree with. So I'll just try my best to add something that might be like a derivative of it. But I think there's two things. If I could wave a magic wand, I think everything begins and ends with leadership. I really do. Because I think this stuff is way too complicated. Both like technology is one thing, but if we're being objective, like what happens when the boss leaves the conference room, literally and figuratively, and the kind of conversations that go on around this stuff, it is so confusing. And some folks, are really scared of it and concerned about the change management bit. I think is super real. I think the other part, not just leadership, but I think leaders need to start by experiencing the magic themselves, and not to quote unquote demonstrate, good behavior. And look, I'm leading from the front, in like this theatrical way. What I'm talking about, and this kind of goes back to a conversation from last week that we mentioned previously, is if you experience something like Notebook LM for the first time and you're able to remix any and all different forms of content into a way that you can then have a synthesis, created for you with a sense of humor and 7 minutes of audio that saves you 17 hours, or you use Google Deep Research, and I'm sure I'm missing others, and you experience that and direct to a workflow, that to me is when a leader experiences the magic. The leader is able to lead differently. And a lot of these challenges kind of go by the wayside because I think it was Tati, to your point on the psychological safety, which I completely agree with. I think when you see a leader struggle through it and then have the aha moment and then experience the magic and then demo that to you and show you, hey, check it out. I allocated and delegated 27 hours of grueling but important market research to Google Deep Research, and I was able to put all of my bandwidth, less than 30 minutes to prompt it, into thinking through the implications of this extraordinary research report. This all should sound quite familiar to both of you. I think that's where it's at. And it's as simple as that. So that's my long-winded soapbox speech of building on top of all the great things that you all said, but it's leadership and it's doing it,
100% agree, and I'll add to that piece on Create that there's some unique things that leadership will do here. One is how you're talking about the modeling AI engagement, but not just modeling like, oh, I'm using AI, exactly what you're saying, right? Sharing experiences, successes, challenges. How are you interacting with giving tangible examples? But then there's another piece that's really, really important, which is always the place of leadership, but because this is considered to be so technical, at times leadership is stepping a little bit aside on setting what the North Star vision is. So how does this how does AI align with your broader business strategy? You need to be able to clearly articulate this to your teams. Talking about you can only create psychological safety and model the appropriate engagement, etc., if you are aware of how that comes together. And if you're not, this is the invitation that you need to be, right? You have to know what that is, because there are three things that are true here. And one is that you can do far more with AI than you think. You cannot do it alone. Well, that's where that comes in. And you must be personally involved as a leader. These three things are absolutely true.
Yes. And I'm going to give my man, Ethan Malik, a big shout out. I'm so glad that you just said what you just said, Tati, because you reminded me of something he tweeted this morning. And it was something, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, but we'll go back and I'll add it to the notes. But he basically said something along the lines of, look, if you're new to AI and all this stuff, the easiest way to basically get into this magical arena, the magical moment, is take something that you have deep domain expertise on and start interfacing with an LLM, around that topic, and start stress testing, start brainstorming, all the good things. And you'll see just how wild it is that we have access to this level of intelligence on demand. So yeah, take something you have great domain expertise in, whatever it might be. It could be, cooking cupcakes for that matter, anything. And just start messing with the geniuses, and you'll see what'll happen. It's really powerful. That's all I got. You guys good? I brought the cupcakes back, the cookies, the cupcakes. Yeah. I think I'm hungry. So
interesting about that, which is a separate side topic, but if you think about like the workforce changing as younger generations kind of move into the workforce, the people that are graduating high school now or going through high school now and going into colleges, they're going to be the first set of people that have used AI in a lot of things that they do, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see that group kind of go into the workforce. Whether or not it is, because I had 2 teenage daughters, using AI to help with recipes and baking and things like that. They love
cookies, cupcakes, all the good stuff.
But also, being knowledgeable around like what you should use AI for and what you shouldn't use AI for, right? Because like nowadays in high schools and universities, like there's a lot of just keeping track of making sure people aren't using AI to do their schoolwork, and making sure it's not
thumbs down.
But,
sorry.
I think there's an aspect, a generational aspect. Like there was a generation that kind of grew up with the internet, and then there was a generation that like mobile applications were the prevalent things that they use, and then this one's going to be AI, and then as they move into the workforce, it's gonna transform everything, and so the people that are not that are resistant to using AI, they may not have jobs in the future. Who knows? You gotta use these tools, every tool that comes out to enhance what you do, enhance your creative process, enhance your day-to-day operational process, right? So it'll be interesting in the next 3 to 5 years to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite quotes, the Bill Gurley, just run at it, as he says. Embrace it. Don't run away from it. It'll catch you. Yeah. Anyway, that was awesome. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Tati. Thanks, Steve. See ya.